Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Tatiana. I'm mostly the bass player and also a composer and a teacher. When I was a teenager, choosing a career pathway, my mom told me that being a musician wasn't an option because musicians don't earn money. I'm a simple human being, and when someone tells me that I can't do something, guess what I do? So here you'll be able to see all the truth about what an independent musician's life looks like. Actually, all the musicians are very different, and there are thousands of different stories of failures and success, and this is just one of them. I think it's quite important to make a video like this because some people ask me about my pathway in music. Moreover, I would like to share the things how it is going right now to be able to compare it later on when everything develops and changes in my life like it always does. I'm not going to tell you the details about each step in my life because there were many steps and I would have a lot to say about every one of them. It would be a really thick book if I decided to write it. So I will just mention some steps. As a kid, I lived in Yekaterinburg. It's a large city between Asia and Europe in Ural Mountains in Russia. I attended two schools at the same time. It was a normal school first, and in the afternoon I had to go to the school of music for kids, and I played the piano there. Actually, I hated the piano school. Honestly, I wouldn't like to go there, and I tried to give up, but I was dragged into that. I just had to go. I just think that my teachers couldn't find a good approach to me, maybe, and probably it wasn't just a very good school. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, my mom found out that there was a band around in the city for kids, and there I would be able to learn how to play the guitar. And that sounded pretty interesting to me, so I decided to give it a try. When I came to that band, I started learning how to play the guitar, but pretty fast the place of the bass guitar player became vacant, and our teacher put me there. First, I was very disappointed. I thought that our teacher gave up on me, that he thought that I couldn't manage with 6 strings, and I decided to prove him that I was pretty good. And I learned our repertoire on the bass guitar, and suddenly I started loving it. I felt that groove when we managed to play well together with the drummer, and that just came through my body, and that was so cool. I think it was imprinted in my brain since then because later in my life I changed professions, I changed all my ways in life, but always I was finding myself again with the bass guitar. Okay, I'm just coming back. So I learned some chords on the guitar and I could play them, and I started experimenting in songwriting when I was a kid. My experiments were pretty interesting, I think, for a teenager, and I attended some festivals and even got some prizes from them, and I went to different cities. That was pretty cool, but actually I didn't know what I was doing exactly, and I didn't have any teacher for songwriting and composing, so that was just some experiments for me. I didn't become a musician straight away after school, and I got another education and I became an orthopedic surgeon. So there were 6 years of study and 1 year of internship and hundreds of hours of night shifts at emergency services at the same time. I tried to convince myself that I was becoming a medical professional and I wasn't a bass player and music wasn't my thing and I needed to focus on real stuff. However, it just didn't work so well, and I found myself playing the bass in 1 or 2 different bands in our city. When I finished my education and got my certificate as an orthopedic surgeon, I tried to find a job. But that was pretty difficult in my city because the normal hospitals didn't want to take me. They told me that orthopedic surgery wasn't for women at all, that was too hard for a young girl, and they just wanted me to go away. Only one place accepted me because they were always short of staff, and that was a hospital located in a prison. And I decided that it would be an interesting experience for me. I would learn some real stuff, and I agreed and I came there. I spent 6 months in a prison treating prisoners. And after that, I gave up medicine at all. I've seen some shit, and I wouldn't like to share this here in this video. It took 3 years for me to get rid of those pictures in my mind and become okay again. So after that, I moved to Moscow and I stopped being a doctor. In Moscow, I entered the Moscow College of Improvisational Music as a bass player. It looked to me that music helped me to keep my mind healthy, and I just needed it. It saved me. So I started playing the bass. I worked as an editor in some magazines for scientists and doctors, and I spent 4 very, very happy years studying at that college as a bass player. I played in different bands and we toured a lot, and that was a lot of fun. I remember when I was finishing my education there at the music college, I played one very sophisticated piece on a concert. I had spent lots of hours learning that, and that was pretty good. And after that gig, someone came to me and told me very excitedly, "Welcome to the big sport." And I was so happy about it. And I came to my teacher to share that joy with him, and suddenly I realized that he was very disappointed. He told me that I forgot what we were doing in music and that music wasn't about sport at all. And I realized that I was becoming an athlete in music, and I didn't like it. I wanted music to be art, not sport. And I didn't know what to do because I was finishing my education, and what's after, I could stay playing in bands, but that was an athlete way, not a creator way. I think that I even got depression because I just couldn't sleep, and I needed to find a solution, what to do now, how to turn music back into creative way. I decided to try to enter the Academy of Music as a composer. Everyone around told me that I shouldn't try because at that academy they accepted only people with classical background, but I got rock and jazz background. But I didn't see another way, so I decided to try. I passed all the exams and I became the first person in the faculty of composition with jazz background. There were 5 students, I think, and I think I was the weakest one on the course. So they asked us, "What instrument do you play?" And everyone answered something like the piano, the French horn, the cello, and that was completely fine. And that was my turn, and I said, "The bass guitar." And our teachers turned to me and said something like, "What?" That was so funny. So I spent 5 years learning composition, and on that way I became a mom. I didn't get any maternity leave, so I just brought my baby with me on all the lectures. That was an interesting experience, and I probably wouldn't recommend you to repeat it. That was pretty challenging. And when I was finishing, I started asking myself, what's now? I was graduating with a Red Diploma of Excellence, and I realized that I learned everything I could about classical traditions in music, but I didn't know much about technologies, so I couldn't actually work in the industry, but I wanted to be able to work for films, for maybe games, for some other projects, and I needed to learn a little bit more about that. So I found a good course of electroacoustic music and some film technologies that was in Wellington in New Zealand. So we packed our things, and my partner, our kid and me, we all came down to New Zealand. In Moscow, my educational degree was an equivalent of master's, but in Wellington I got my postgraduate diploma, which was a level lower than master's, but that was more affordable for us. So I spent a year in Wellington, and after that I got a post-study visa that was for 3 years, and we decided to stay. I spent 2 more years in Wellington trying to pass my English test and become a teacher at school. Finally I did. I got my teaching certificate, and I started looking for a job. The first job I found at school was on the South Island, so we moved to Canterbury and I started teaching music at school. I spent 2 years at schools, 1 year in one school and 1 in another one in Timaru. I wouldn't say that was a very positive experience. I've learned a lot, yes, but I didn't think that I wanted to stay at school for all my life. I wanted something else. And we moved to Christchurch, that wasn't very far from Timaru, and now we are here in Christchurch. I started my doctoral degree in composition, and what I do right now. First, I go to schools as a relief teacher, and this is the main part of my income at the moment. I write music as a part of my doctoral degree portfolio. I play in one band as a regular member and in some other bands like a reliever. I play jazz, rock, pop, whatever, just name it. I write and produce music for some clients. It's short films and some musical projects. This is pretty irregular, and sometimes I have 2 or 3 clients at the same time, but sometimes I just don't have anyone. I work on my YouTube channel. Recently I managed to monetize it. I haven't received any income from them yet. Hopefully it will come next month. I usually publish 2 videos per week. One is more educational, like lesson, and another one is playing something, creating some materials for bass players. I help some musical projects around me with promotion as a content creator. I love doing this, and I hope that this part of my business will develop. I keep being a mother, and of course I have some things to do with my family. If you wonder how I can combine that all, I would say that the strict time management is the only way. One day I asked a former teacher of mine, who is a successful film composer and a university lecturer, how he managed his work-life balance. And he answered, "Did you mean the work-work balance?" And we almost hugged and cried. This is what it does look like, and this tempo of life is not very healthy. It can last for ages, and it's the same for many musicians. You know, most of musicians love doing all of this. Okay, maybe not all of this, but the most part of this. It's like when someone asks me how I balance creativity and life, and I don't know what to answer because I don't separate them, and it's pretty cool. All my life now is a form of creativity, even when I have to teach algebra or PE as a relief teacher at school. However, there is definitely a lot of room for improvement. Okay, now what I would like to see in the future. First of all, I would like to rebalance my income sources. If I could earn more online, on YouTube, or selling some music materials which I make, probably I wouldn't need to go to schools often, or maybe not at all. I would prefer to stay as a relief teacher for my entire life. If I could switch it more to online, I would probably have more time to spend as an online creator and a composer. Second, I would definitely do more composition stuff. More film music, more music for live performances, for soloists, ensembles, and even orchestras. I would like to become either a full-time freelance composer or a university lecturer in composition. I leave both options here for now. Third, I would like to contribute more in the development of the local musical scene here in Christchurch, where I live. I see a huge potential in there. Fourth, I would keep playing the bass and maybe the double bass here and there in some bands and jazz ensembles. I don't know if my goals are achievable. Theoretically, they are, but there are not many role models for me around. Who knows? I've already done some pretty unusual things in my life, so why not to do some more? Sometimes I think that probably my best input in music is not what I write and play and even teach, but it's just role modeling this way for some other people. What's about my goals? We'll see how it goes. If you are on a similar path, let me know about it. I would like to know. If you're just thinking about taking the same path, think twice. This is not an easy way and you might not like it. However, if you really can't help it, you are welcome to club. If you do music as a leisure activity, hobby, socializing and stress relief, I think you are in a much healthier position than many music professionals. It's really good on you. Actually, all the musical industries, all what the professional musicians do, this is not for the other professional musicians, right? This is for people who just love, who enjoy music. So this is how it is at the moment. You are welcome to share your thoughts and maybe your stories in the comments. Don't forget to press the like if you like it and subscribe if you feel so. And you are welcome to connect with me on the other platforms, not only on YouTube. All the links are down below in the description. See you in the next video!